This lesson is to give you an overview of the functionality of Revit and how it works. Although it has a lot of icons and a lot of layers and menus and so forth, there are really only a few of these that we actually use on a continual basis. So pretty much a few things under the architectural tab, a few things on one or two things under the insert, a couple things under the annotate, a little bit under the mass inside. This is where we actually make the land around the building, but that's something that we do at the very end. And of course the views, where we get our interior views, render the pictures and so forth, like we did in other programs, and the modify. So there's only a few things out of each one of them that we actually use, but most of everything we use is out of the architectural tab, and everything else is just like things we do to support what we've actually created or finish what we created. So it's not a whole lot. It's just a matter of doing things in a sequence of steps in order to get what you need. So this is a finished plan so far for a small cabin house, and everything goes in steps. So we start out with the walls, we do the doors, we do the windows, we do the interior walls and doors and so forth. We build the kitchen on level one or whichever level that you might have if you have multiple stories for a building. And after that, then we finish making what it looks like on the outside by putting a roof, putting a porch and so forth. So this is going to be a simple tutorial that I want you to follow along with. So everything really starts with a template. So I'm going to close this up and start out fresh, so you'll see what to click on. So initially, when you start Revit up, you're going to have a opening window, and on the left, you're going to have your projects and your family. So unless you're going to be making something that actually you're going to be utilizing in Revit as a component, we typically never use families anyway. So you have open for your projects. You have open, new, construction template, architectural template, structural template, and mechanical template. Now, if you just so happen to click on new, you would have to hit this drop down and choose architectural template. But there's really no point of doing that when it already says architectural template right here, and that's just what we'll just click on. So, but in case you do click on new, you can click on architectural template in the drop down. We don't typically use this construction template. It's made for doing residential, but it is a little bit more complex to use than it is to use a normal architectural template. So we're just going to start by doing that. All right, so as I mentioned before, a lot of your tools are basic. It just seems like there's a lot of them, but we don't necessarily have to use everything every single time. So that's the beauty of having everything that you need, but you don't necessarily need it all the time. That you necessarily don't need to use it. So in order to navigate around the toolbar, if you hold down your mouse button, or you roll a ball on your mouse, it allows you to pan around like this. If you roll your mouse down, it zooms you out. If you roll your mouse up, it zooms you in. There's roughly about a couple of 100 feet in between each one of these things, each one of these cameras. So it's about 166 feet between each one of the cameras. So there's plenty of room in between the camera for anything that we're going to be working on. So we're not going to have anything longer or wider than that. So these four icons you have here are your cameras, and these are associated with your exterior views. So those, you can hide them, but you shouldn't ever delete them. Also, over to the left, you have your properties toolbar and your project browser. And this is how you navigate through your drawing. So those four cameras that you see here are actually associated with your elevations: east, north, south, and west. Okay. So up at the top, and also with your properties here, uh, depend upon if you choose something. Let's say, for instance, I've just made a wall, and I didn't want the wall to be a generic 8. I wanted it to be a generic 5. I had to drop down. I choose a different type of wall. If I wanted it to be a curtain wall, I could choose a curtain wall. If I want to be a brick wall, if solid brick, I would use this one. But if I was using brick with studs, I would use that one. So just for the sake of just using something basic, uh, we're just going to use a generic 5 as we go along. All right, so we're just going to simply make a room. So we'll do it like a living room. All right, so there's two different ways of actually doing the walls. If you draw the walls one wall at a time, first you need to check to make sure that your level is not that it's not 20 feet tall. If it is, then you just change this to unconnected, or you just do it to level 1, up to level 1. But once you do it once, you gotta actually change that. So we're just gonna put in 10 feet for it, or height of the walls. There's really nothing else really to check. So when you draw exterior walls, you draw them clockwise. If you draw them counterclockwise, what it does is make all the material that you're gonna put on the exterior of the walls um, on the inside. All right, so we're gonna start with a basic, and well, let's delete that first, and let me show you the different other way to making a wall. All right, so whatever last wall that you chose, it remembers that. So the first time we did just using lines. This time we'll use a rectangle, and the rectangle is a tricky one because normally we go from left to right, but when we do it this time, we actually need to go from right to left. So let's say, for instance, we're going to make a room about 23 by 14 or 15 or something like that, 24 by 15. So we'll just go with that. All right, so the way that you can tell whether or not your walls are on the inside or outside of the space, you click on the wall and you look at the arrows. If they are flipped to the inside, then your walls are flipped in the wrong direction. Now on interior walls, it doesn't matter. This only matters if you have an exterior wall. So your material would have to be on the exterior of the building if you're going to do it that way. But for interior wall, it doesn't really matter. And for the sake of this exercise, we're not really worried about interior or exterior walls. All right, so next we have our doors. And there are some that's already preloaded. And they're just a single flush generic door. In order to get other doors, you can load the doors, which is in load families. And we just go to the door category. And there are several different types. There's residential, and there's also commercial, and there's curtain wall doors. So we'll look under the residential section. And I'm just going to choose one that I like. So I'm going to use this door here. And you're going to get this other menu. We typically only try to load the ones that we need. So I'm going to go with a 3680. I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. 3680, which is a typical exterior door. And you come down, you touch the wall. If you touch the wall on the inside, the door goes on the inside. If you touch the wall on the outside, it goes to the outside. But you can also use your space bar to flip the door in the direction you want to go. So we're just going to place a window right here. I mean a door. right there. All right, so the good thing about Revit, it works a lot like some of the other programs. While you're designing in two-dimensional space, it's actually creating a 3D model of the building at the same time. So here's the walls that were made, and here's the door that we just put in. And we go back to level 1, and that puts us back to the floor plan view. All right, so next we have our windows, and some of the windows are preloaded that you can use, which are the double hung windows. And I typically either use the 30 by 48 or the 28 by 48. And if I'm doing a kitchen, I may do the one that's right here, either one of those two. And you can also customize the size of them. That'll be something we get into later on. So we're just going to say that that's going to be our window. And again, if you touch the inside of the wall, then it's going to go to the inside. But if you touch the outside of the wall with the windows, that's the way it really should go. And you can always place a couple of windows next to each other to get a different look. And if you don't really like to see the white walls, you can click on the little box at the bottom here, and you can shade your view so they'll appear gray instead. All right, so we'll bounce back to level 1, and we're going to put an opening in here. And an opening is considered a door, but it may come in as a component. So you have to be real careful with that when you do that. And you gotta see everything but the opening. I don't see that one, but since I don't see it, I'll search it to find it. But normally it's in with the doors, so let's see where we can find that at. All right, I found it. I guess I was looking too hard. All right, so it's door opening, and we're gonna place it about there. So we're just gonna imagine that we're going into like the kitchen or the dining room. So we're just gonna place the door opening right there. All right, so we're just gonna consider this as being our living room, and let's say, for instance, that we wanted the living room to be a little bit smaller, a little bit larger. So instead of this being 24 feet, we want it actually to be 20. We could drag this wall down to make it 20 by 14. So if you click on a horizontal wall, you'll get a vertical dimension. If you click on a vertical wall, you get a horizontal dimension. So it kind of works opposite of each other. And you can always either drag it, or you can also click on the number and then change it. So if I wanted that to be 14 feet, I could actually just type in 14 and hit the enter button, and it'll go to that particular measurement. But I'm just going to leave it at 20 by 15. So it's going to be kind of a fairly large living room. All right, so our next step of our exercise, we're going to put in a floor because we want, again, under the architecture tab, and we're just going to choose a wood joist floor, 10 inch. And there's two different ways of also doing this. You can select the walls as such, hit the check mark, it puts in a floor. Or we'll do floor again. Or you can use rectangle tool or whatever shape that your floor may be. Sometimes you have a round floor, around some curved walls, so you have to use one of the other tools for that to fill that in. So we're just going to select between there and there, hit the check mark, and we'll get the same results. So we take a look at it in 3D, and as you see that we have our floor, and we have a window, a door, two windows. Yeah, it looks pretty good. All right, so typically in this view, we like to I like to turn the floor off. So we're just going to do that by going to View and go to Visibility Graphics. And we're just going to scroll down and uncheck the floor. And it only turns it off in this current view. It doesn't turn it off in every view that you have. So in the 3D view, you'll still see it. All right, so let's go back to level 1. Oops. All right, so this opening, I want to have another one over here. So just imagine I'm going down a hallway or something like that. So I'm going to use the copy tool. I'm just going to kind of copy it right here first. And I'm going to use a tool which is called Pick New Host. So I'm just basically going to take this and I'm going to move it over to this wall. So I'm just going to pick New Host and I'm going to select this wall over here. I'll put it right here in the middle. I think so. So again in 3D, take a look at it. All right, so it looks pretty good. All right, so level 1. All right, so our next step, just for, since we're running up on 20 minutes, we're just gonna go ahead and do something real quick. We're just gonna kind of label our room. So we're gonna go to the Architecture tab, and we're just gonna select Room, and we're gonna room tag with area. I'm gonna place that inside. But before I even do that, I'm gonna change my scale to 1/4. I'm gonna click right here in the middle of the room. And I'm going to change the word room to living room. So I'm not going to change the number. I'm not going to change the square footage. I'm just going to change the word where it says room. All right, so we have our room placed. And then we're going to add a couple of dimensions to it. We'll do one horizontal. It should be the same as the one outside, but we're just going to place it right here. And one vertical. So those two, the vertical ones match, but the horizontal doesn't. Right, so we're just going to leave that like that. And then we're just going to put it on a sheet. So we're going to click on Sheets, right mouse click, New Sheet, and we're going to load a new sheet. So if you've been in another category, you got to back out of that category. And we're just going to do a 17 by 22 horizontal. If you don't have the one that says 2, that's fine. We don't worry about that. I'll tell you what, let's do 11 by 17. And then make sure everybody has the same thing. All right. So in order to place these on the sheets, it's just a simple drag and drop. So we're going to click it, drag it over, and then click once. And as you see, we didn't necessarily need that big sheet. This little one works just fine. All right, so now, it looks pretty good like that. And next, we're just going to do our title block information here. So, and after that, we're going to submit it. And then it's going to be our first one that we do. So that's going to be our living room. Project number. We'll do 001. Date will be today. Author will be you. And checker would be me. And the scale is already there, so we don't have to worry about changing that. All right, now if we really want it to stand out, we can add a fill to the walls. So we can actually click on one wall, edit type, and we'll just come right here. And where it says coarse scale fill pattern, it's already on solid. So we'll leave it on solid, and we'll just change the color. I don't particularly like using black. You can, but I like using this gray because you can actually see through it to see the dimensions. And by doing that, it's going to automatically update your sheet. So if you hit the plus next to sheets, click on A101 Living Room, it's going to update. So this is where you are. So this will be our first one. We're at 21 minutes. So next step is just to print. So I'm going to print this using PDF Creator. We're going to change the paper size. So we're going to go to Setup. We're going to choose Tabloid. We'll save it. And we'll do Zoom 100%. And then you put this back on center. Then we'll do OK. And we'll preview it. And if it looks good in preview, we'll just go ahead and we'll hit print. The one thing we didn't change was owner and project name, so we won't worry about that. Technically, owner user never says anything. Project name should have been the living room, and they should have said floor plan, but we'll fix that on the next one. All right, so we'll do OK. And PDF Creator will pop up, and you'll just go through the steps of creating the PDF, and then that's what you actually turn in. So you'll get this. You click here. Living room. Hit save. And it's going to ask you to do a few things. And you just have to hit cancel for all of them. So you'll get this. So just cancel it. You'll get another one. I don't think I can drag this one over. You'll get that. And then third, you'll get that. So just cancel all of those. Then the PDF Creator will pop up. And then that means your PDF is being generated. And then that's what you'll turn in.